question too. I think most people view creators based on their end results and don't really see all that goes into the creation. Based on what you do, what are some things that are crucial to your creation that most people never see?
I think for me in particular, um, it's like very important to stay organized, which I think to a lot of people would kind of seem like the opposite of what would be required to kind of make something in a
Right.
very creative way. Um, just because I said so much of what you do is based on instinct, which is true. But anybody who does this, I mean, you have lists, and then you like make a list somewhere else, and you have another list, and then you have notes on things and little reminders of things and little bits and bobs that you're pulling from all these different places. And if you ever think you have enough, it's never enough. So there's a whole process, I think, of organizing, and it's not necessarily organizing your thoughts, but organizing your notes and your things that helps you kind of see how things are going to look because most of the time, you can see it
Right.
in the sense of, you're working on this abstract thing of what a set is going to look like or what an image is going to look like, and it's this very abstract thing. um and a lot of people can't see it. It's a picture of a product here that we have, and then there's a bunch of other random props, and then how are
Right.
we going to make this look like something? And so I think a big part is, you know being organized, but then through that process of organizing and editing is distilling down what it will look like. And it's not always exactly what it will look like, but you have a vision of it in your head
Hmm.
of what it should look like. It's
Right.
not an approximation. Um, but all that preparation helps you create that vision of it.
Right.
And for me personally, you know, when I shop, whether it's at a store or at a prop house, um, I'll walk the entire thing, even if there's nothing in certain areas that applies to what I'm doing,
Right.
because that's where you kind of may find some inspiration or may get an idea of something or may remember something that you've forgotten.
Right.
Um, and if you're doing that, then that really helps kind of hone down the idea of what it's supposed to look like.
Right. Do you feel like at this point in your career, you can already kind of see the final thing in your head for the most part? Like for me,
Yeah,
I can if I know the image inspiration, I can maybe visualize how I want to light it and I can write it down and stuff and it when I do it, it's kind of how I imagined it would be.
yeah. I mean, I think 50% of the time it comes out the way I imagined it would be, but 100% of the time I am imagining it
Right.
before it happens.
Right.
Um, I think I say 50% of the time just because so often there's unforeseeable things that come up,
Yeah, yeah.
whether it's a client note that you didn't know about, or, a lighting thing, or something with a talent or whatever.
Right.
Um, but I think in those rare instances where I can't see it, that's actually where I'm very nervous,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that makes me uncomfortable, because
Yeah.
yeah, usually at this point I can see it, or I
Right.
can see a version of
Right.
it, and that whatever that version is that something that I know, okay, well, you know if we're getting to that, then you know we're we're getting to what
Right.
is being asked for.
Yeah.
um but that takes a long time. I mean, not a long time, but it takes doing it a lot to be able to do that, and that goes along with the instinct thing.
Right.
Um,
And like you had touched on earlier is the repetition of things too.
yes.
If you do
Yeah.
the same thing over and over, you have a pretty good idea what it's going to look like.
Yes. And I think there's repetition and like it doesn't always have to be on the job, right?
Hmm.
Like it's like how you put the pillows on the sofa at home, you know, or how you make your bed, which sounds very boring, but I think this kind of goes back to that artist's way of seeing things.
Right.
If you're practicing that, then it helps you see to the other side of it.
Right. And well, in your line of work too, is you've seen like the mundane things in life. You're looking at it as an artist and seeing how it is set up in a normal, real life way so that you can then replicate it on a set to make it look like that was a natural action of someone putting that pillow in that certain way because that's how people do it.
Right. I'm actually trying to see it the way an artist would see it.
Right.
So because I don't feel like I'm an artist, I'm trying to think of it as an artist and say, well, like what would what should this look like
Right.
to make it, you know, interesting.
Right.
Um, and that's where that borrowing someone's eye kind of
Right.
comes in.
Yeah. There's been times where I've, just look at something random, while walking around, and I start thinking about how would I like that to look like that,
Yeah.
and I- it's not like a purposeful, like conscious thing that I look at this and go, how would I like that? It's like it just
Right.
pops into my head at this point
Yeah.
because I think, as you pursue the things that you feel like you are called to do, you're constantly being fed these
Yeah.
inspirations.
Well, and that's what's so great about having a camera in your pocket all the time
Right,
is that you can capture these moments that, to but a normal person would just they're like, what do you what is that?
right,
You know? But it could just be the texture of a brick wall or something, you know?
right,
Um, and yeah, I mean that that way of seeing it and that way of borrowing someone's eye is really what gets you to the end, right, where you want to be, right? Like
right.
that's the goal.